Hey everybody, welcome back to the Tracer83 channel, project, network, whatever. So recently I've been deciding to get more involved in 3-gun. However, I've been reloading on this Dillon 550 for about 2 years now. Take a look at that. I decided that reloading 5.56 in particular is a pain in the neck. There are just so many steps you got to go through, and it's sort of demotivated me from actually reloading 223 or 5.56 instead of just going out and buying it. Well, even with this Dillon Super 1050 set up with a case feeder that comes with it and a Mr. Bullet feeder by Double Alpha, there's still a couple of extra steps I got to go through. You'll notice this first station right here is empty. That's normally where the resizing die would go. Well, I've got that set up in this blank tool head over here. So I still got to run all my brass through this tool head after lubricating it. Then I got to go over here and trim all my brass. You don't have to do it every single time, but I do. I know a lot of guys do, just to make sure your crimp's consistent and just to make sure. So I got to run all my brass through this high quality Wilson trimmer over here. And then I got to bring it all the way over here to my RCPS case prep station. All together, this is still a lot of extra steps. And if I can eliminate one of these, then I'm all about it. Now, I know some of you guys are going to say, get yourself a Dillon electric case trimmer, or even get a Girard case trimmer where you can just drop all the cases in after resizing them. Well, I might do that eventually. But for the moment, in lieu of spending a lot more money, in which case, even if I got the Dillon case trimmer, I would still have to deburr and chamfer, and that's the step I'm going to try to get rid of. So what I did, walk over here, try to avoid all these Tennessee pterodactyl mosquitoes. What I did is I bought one of these Lyman Cyclone tumblers. This is a steel media tumbler. There are other brands that make them. A friend of mine, a USPSA Grandmaster, told me that one way he gets rid of the step of deburring and chamfering brass is to throw his brass in one of these for a couple of hours, and it takes that lip off the case mouth. So to show you what I'm talking about, let's see if I can find a good one here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see. If I hold it straight up to the camera, you can see the rim is really shiny, really wide. Probably not going to be able to see it this way. There's a really sharp edge, almost like a little mini circular saw. You could probably cut yourself on one of these if you really tried. Well, we're going to see if this steel media takes those burrs off. And like I said, I got this on sale from Midsouthshooterssupply. Check them out. On sale right now. I don't think this is going to work. I'm going to have to do it a little bit at a time. Just dump the cases straight in here. And this is the first time I'm using this, so I haven't already done this little experiment. So you're gonna see the results dead cricket along with me. So really you want to fill this thing up about halfway. I did read the instructions, but that's all I've got prepped right now. It should be fine. So I'm gonna take some of the magic cleaning solution, dump that in there. This little sample packet, incidentally, the same GM I talked to gave me kind of a recipe for probably the same thing. So that's in there. I got my 5 pounds of steel media, or these little pins. Oh, gonna dump those in there. Oh, and water. It says to fill it up just until it's covering the brass, which I put the media in there already. I'm sure that's, it's probably not the perfect blend, but we'll see what happens anyway. Tighten this down. And then set it on the tumbler. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this with one hand. There we go. And I'm gonna set this camera down just for a second so I can make sure this is tight. There we go. Make sure it's not gonna leak all over the place. Okay. And then this one, I don't know if all the different manufacturers do it this way, but this has a timer, like an egg timer basically. I'm gonna set that to 2 hours. Actually, I'll turn it off for a second while I finish up this segment. I'm gonna set it for 2 hours, go get something to eat, do whatever, and then come back and we will see if this brass is deburred and chamfered. So stick around. And we're back. As you can see, I already dumped everything out here on this towel. This is the next day. I didn't come straight back to it, but it doesn't really matter. The tumbler comes with these 2 sifting trays, at least this one does. You dump all your brass in here, give it a few shakes over the sink preferably, and then all your steel media ends up in this mesh basket in the bottom. And then I poured everything out on this towel. You can still see some pins just kind of lying there, but I'll sort all that out later, shake the towel out. The brass is way shinier than I expected it to be, especially inside the primer pockets, which that's something people talk about, how it'll clean the inside of the case itself and the primer pockets. It's not really what I was interested in, but I'll definitely be using this when I get back to my long-range precision rifle shooting. I don't see any reason to go back to the standard media for that, considering this does such a good job. Now I can tell it is going to be a little bit more of a hassle sorting everything out from the media and getting these dried off. They're still kind of damp because this is Tennessee and it's starting to get warm and humid out. But I also have what you could call a brass dryer coming in the mail. You can get a brass dryer meant for use with one of these tumblers. I believe Hornady makes one, but you know what? It's the same thing you can make beef jerky with. So I saved a few bucks and went on Amazon and got myself a food dehydrator, which will do the same thing. Anyway, so did this do what we sought out to see if it'll do? Well, I've checked a few of these and I'll tell you what, it did a pretty good job. There is still a tiny bit of a rim on a few of these, not all of them. Some of them have a very narrow and almost not even noticeable lip on them still, but it's nothing compared to what it was. And also, I only put these in there for about 2 hours, like I was saying, and I only filled it up probably a quarter of the way full, and the instructions actually say to try to fill it up at least halfway. That way, I'm guessing the friction helps clean it even more. And I suspect that if I put more of these in the tumbler and left them in there for a little bit longer, it would take even that little extra bit off. But what really matters is we've got a case gauge here. They seem to fit perfectly, except for, you know, the few that have sort of dinged up bases or rims. But yeah, what little bit of a burr is still on there isn't enough to interfere with anything. I'll load a bunch of these up, take them out to the range this weekend and see if that's going to interfere with feeding at all. I highly doubt it will. And one more time, I think leaving them in there a little bit longer with more cases in the tumbler might solve that. But I'm really happy with the results. And, you know, I had some time to think about this since I did wait a day to come back to this. I think I am going to go ahead and order a Dillon RT 1500, the electric case trimmer, because once you put them through that, then you just throw them straight into the tumbler, it deburrs them, and then you're all ready to go. So if anybody was curious as to whether or not this really works, if this works at all, like I kind of was, and wants to save some time in prepping your brass, this is probably a really good way to go, unless, like I said, you're going to get a Girard trimmer, which does all this in one shot. But then also you have to handle the brass one more time, because you have to resize it and then take it over to the trimmer and then stick every individual piece of brass in the trimmer. This is a hand trimmer, of course. But if you were doing it the way I just described, you'd still resize everything and then bring it over to the trimmer, which is electric, and then feed them all in there one at a time. That's still really fast, and it does get rid of the burrs. However, using an electric case trimmer, which I wish I could actually show you, you just run all your cases through here after lubricating them, and then you'll have a separate die after the trimmer to resize your neck, because from what I understand, the trimmer doesn't bring the neck down to where it's supposed to be. It actually shrinks it a little bit more than it's supposed to be. But then after you're done with that, you just throw them in the tumbler and let them set for a couple hours, shake out all the water, throw them in a dryer, or let them set outside preferably. They're all dry and you're ready to go. The last thing I'm gonna get is a magnet to pick up the rest of this media, so I don't have to fold up this towel every time or whatever I'm using. And yeah, so I'm really happy with these results. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them down in the comments section. I'll keep you all posted as to how this works, especially when I sort of get some of this other equipment. I'll run some of these through the old Dillon Super 1050 and let you see how it turns out. Thanks for watching, guys. Later.